Hello, Patrick.
Stephen.
It's good to be here with you.
Yeah, good to be with you too. Am I on the screen now?
You are indeed.
There we go.
People be able to see you. Patrick is working traditionally today, and so he'll have his camera set up that'll be pointing down at what he's drawing because Patrick's a traditional drawing man.
I am.
So today, the thing that we're here for is because of the Proko summer sale that's going right now. That means you can save 20% off everything, like we said in that ad. Patrick has a whole bunch of courses, books, and other things that you can get as part of that sale. So Patrick wanted to show you the things that he does, his process, and wants to answer your questions. Patrick, what are we doing today?
What are we doing? Well, I only saw one question, and it was, how do I get started? I think it was something that was the gist of it anyway, but you've probably got a bunch of questions there, Stephen. So I work well answering questions as they draw. So any questions that pop up. But the first question, I think, was that, how do I get a start on it? And I'm doing that right now. So I'm just getting my hands dirty. And now we're talking traditionally here. We could say that in the digital realm, you're getting your hands dirty just by making marks. But that's what I'm doing. I'm feeling the materials and really finding the darks and lights of it. And also the gestural hand. If anyone's brand new, then the gestural hand is basically this. You put down, I've got a little charcoal piece here. It's 2 fingers wide usually. And I'll pick it up like a monkey, like this. And now it rests on the page. Now, you're not going to see any masterpieces today, by the way, guys, because I'm not resting my whole arm on the drawing board like I'm usually doing. Patrick's excuses. But later we'll see some nice stuff because I've got some recorded stuff there. Traditional stuff. Yes, go ahead, Stephen.
Patrick, I think, is there any chance, can you disconnect that camera that you've got there and then reconnect it for your drawing camera? I think we've got a lower frame rate.
Oh, have we?
Yeah.
Okay.
I want people to see the full gestural stroke that you've got.
Oh, right. Okay, so how do I do that, Stephen?
I am not privy to how you set this up over there.
Okay, so this is a QuickTime movie. And if I go up, let's have a look up here. What have we got? Oh no, Stephen, why is this happening?
That's how this goes. You guys are seeing the sausage get made. So this is the reason that Patrick teaches you how to draw. It's not a bad thing. Yeah. So I wouldn't, like, for the people who are here in the chat, thank you so much for being here. I think that you guys have probably watched other videos from Patrick here on the channel before on YouTube. If you haven't, you should. You guys can find a whole bunch of those here at this link that I'll put on screen right now. And you can also find Patrick's books, lessons, and all of those things, the courses, all those other materials.
Nice cover there, Stephen. I'll put it back on again. Is it different?
I do still have a little bit of frame rate issue.
What does that actually mean?
Can you so it kind of looks like a little bit more like a stop motion. You don't have every frame of the video.
Well, it's got a drag to it.
Yeah. Oh. Can you possibly can you move the window around on your screen for a moment?
Okay.
Okay, if you'll move that around for me. That is your display capture. I'm going to go ahead and remove that, and we'll add that back in.
Okay.
All right. So then, if you will, go to present and stop presenting, and then we'll get that back in here.
Oh, I got you. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm going back to...
And then...
Okay.
This is the fun stuff. This is why you guys are here for live stream.
All right. So I'm going to stop screen share. Is that correct, Stephen?
Yeah, that's the one.
Good to see you again. Look, here I am. Oh,
you're back out from behind the camera.
The Hobbit's return. Okay, so stop screen. There it is.
Yeah, and then add that back in.
And present.
People are enjoying, however, seeing your awesome room, which you refer to it in a very specific way. I think you call it your Hobbit hole.
The Hobbit's cave.
Hobbit cave?
The Hobbit cave, yeah. You should have seen it before. I should do a before and after to give people hope that anything can be done on the cheap. Basically, I just scoured. You know, I don't know if you have it in America, but here in Australia, every day they have a sort of amnesty day where you can throw your junk on the sidewalk.
Oh yeah, spring cleaning.
Yeah, spring cleaning. And then what happens is the community just cleans it before the garbage people come. They go around, they take all the stuff that other people don't want. And I got cabinets and everything, just a lick of paint. Okay,
So-
there's it back.
Okay, so let's add this back in. That does look. I feel like I saw your cursor moving fairly smoothly.
Okay. Let's try again. I'll make some marks. How's that?
Goodness. We're back in the same spot for this, which is not a thing, because we meet up beforehand to test things and set them up, and this was not happening then.
It wasn't happening then.
Yeah.
Let me just quit the whole. I'll quit the whole QuickTime and see if that helps. But I'll take questions.
Do you want to switch over to working in Photoshop?
Yeah, I suppose I'll have to.
Okay.
There'll be no traditional drawing today then.
Yeah. Ain't that just the way?
Okay. Well, let me try one last thing, Stephen, since we've set it all up. I'll quit it completely and come back in and see what happens.
Okay.
And if that's that, then that's that.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
Yeah,
it'll just be you and me, chat.
Just be us. I'm happy with that.
So I did want to come through your guys' questions here. I know there was the one that Patrick did mention earlier from Carlos. Let's see what other ones we've got here. TK, you're going to take my money, aren't you? Not a lot of it, because the sale, 20% off right now. Let's see who else we got. This is your guys' time to bring up anything. Stan's also in the room immediately behind me. So if you guys give me something good to yell at him, I can yell good things at Stan.
How's that, Stephen, by the way? Is it still the same lag?
This is pretty much the same.
Oh, it's the same. Okay, it's over. We're going live a different way. All right.
Yeah.
I'll take it away.
If you want, try leaving the entire room for this and then coming back in. We'll see what we get, because I think, unfortunately, since you would be drawing digitally, I think that might have the same issue with you drawing in Photoshop as well.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, I see what you mean. Like leave the stream room. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes, please.
Okay. So I'll leave the studio and I'll just come back in again. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And should we give it one last try when I come in traditionally, or will we just call that in?
We can go ahead and give it a try, but it'll be a very quick one because they've already been through a couple here. So.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Okay.
I'm leaving the studio. I'll be back in 30 seconds.
Okay. Yep. Sounds good.
Okay.
For you guys here, someone's asked when the perspective course is happening. I can't say, but all I can say is that it's happening very soon. For those of you who did see the announcement for the perspective challenge that we have going right now, that one, it kind of hints at a little something with the Marshall Vandruff in it. So
did I hear Marshall Vandruff being mentioned when I
did mention Marshall Vandruff. Yeah, I love Marshall
Vandruff.
He's the best.
Yeah.
I mean, besides yourself, obviously.
We're two top men.
Okay, so there's a person here, Jason. I'm gonna do a live chat. I responded to you yesterday. It's gonna stay a live chat for right now until otherwise. I would have taken your suggestion yesterday, but you didn't reply to me, so you don't get the chance anymore.
Tough but fair.
Yeah. Okay.
Steven,
it seems good right now.
Get out of here. You're kidding me.
This seems good. We will roll with this until it proves otherwise. And then we will switch over. You guys, it worked.
Good Lord.
Okay, so let's assume this is good. Let's treat it as such.
Okay, and I'll hide.
Oh, no.
This? Okay, we're good.
Patrick, I don't know if it is. Something changes. Something changed.
Has it changed? Has it gone laggy again?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, let's strip it down and we'll go digital.
We're just gonna keep
okay. Let's do that. Okay.
Yeah.
And this. And we're back.
Thank you to the 88 of you that are here so far.
88. Good Lord. All right. Let me get back to StreamYard.
There we are. Okay. Elwin here in the chat saying, I've been really excited to see Patrick again. Me too. Patrick's the best.
Thank you. It's good to feel loved. Oh, here we go. All right. There was proof positive that it wasn't a green screen.
Yeah, this was actually his hands.
All right. Now, what should I do? Should I
Let's take some questions. I think that one of the things that you were prepared for in Photoshop was to do a little bit of draw over, talk about like answer some questions from the audience. I think that might be the best idea for this.
Okay,
you can talk about some different things like what landmarks you look for, different things like that. There won't be as much traditional drawing. I think you're not the most pleased with the results of drawing in Photoshop, correct?
Yeah, that's right. But I've got recorded content that I can talk over this and we can pretend that I'm drawing. I'll even make movements and stuff as if I'm actually live drawing. But yeah.
All right. Okay. So we had the one question earlier from Carlos that I think we can probably tackle, and you guys can drop your other questions here in the chat. So Carlos was asking, when studying a master study, and they said, let's say Frazetta, do you know what the exact concept you're trying to learn? Do you know the exact concept you're trying to learn, or do you go with it and see what happens, or is it a back and forth with both approaches?
We're talking about me doing a master copy of another artist. Is that correct? I don't do it.
Oh,
I've only ever done it once, a long, long time ago, like decades ago.
Okay.
But I draw over Frazetta to have a look at it. In fact, let's have a look at me drawing over Frazetta. What a good segue.
Perfect segue.
Let's do that.
Yeah. So Riley here, Riley Blakely in the chat was giving us a little bit of tech advice on how to fix what we were dealing with. They said blow in it.
Good one.
Thanks, Riley.
You know, I take things literally sometimes because you might catch me out there. That could have been it.
You guys are great.
That was good. All right. So I've got to avoid getting my text records up. Been burnt by that before.
It has actually quite literally happened.
It has happened
before. For those of you guys who are asking questions here in the chat, if you guys can just put a little Q at the beginning of that, it'll help me catch them in the chat a little bit easier.
Okay. I can answer the question earlier that was asked about how do you get a start. I do this. This is me with my materials. This is just the promo, so it's just going to clip itself. But for anyone that wants to start, you can see this, right, Stephen?
Oh yeah, this is perfect. You can also make this full screen. That would be great.
Okay, let's do that. So, where is it?
If I'm guessing, I think if you can just double click, there you go. Perfect.
Oh, double click. Okay, let's try that.
Oh no, it's already up. It's already good. This is perfect as is.
All right. Well, let's let that run for a second now. We'll pretend we just came in. Hello, everyone. Here we go.
Welcome to a brand new live stream with Patrick Jones. Patrick, what are we doing today? What are we looking at?
Well, we're looking at my new course. My new course is Apprentice to Wizard. Okay, so people have been asking for ages to do a beginner's course, and I never got around to it. There's me introducing the course there in the background. So I'm going to take it through. I think we've got 18 hours at the minute, Stephen, and I'm going to do a bonus hour as well, maybe 2 bonus hours for it. So it's going to be a big course, and it's really just to take a beginner, an absolute beginner. Here we are getting the tools out to a wizard. So the whole thing's based on fantasy. And I'll basically you'll go back in time and find all of the things that tripped me up when I was younger and take all that, 20 odd years of knowledge and put it together in 18 hours. But, it's 18 hours condensed. It's not like, you go into a classroom, there's a lot of guff and stuff. It's just 100% drawing all the time. So it took me 4 weeks to do everything and then condense it into those hours. So Mr. T and Mrs. V, these are mnemonics, and I'm really huge on mnemonics. I find it very hard to remember anatomical names, for instance, but mnemonics, simple idea for scapula and equilateral triangle, for instance, very easy to remember. So that's what I'm doing all the time. I'm looking for these. I'll just stop this right here, actually. So I would have been doing this kind of drawing this morning. So the way I begin most drawings, it's just this idea. I know Stan's got a wonderful take on it with his robo beam, and we can take it whatever way our sensibilities work. For me, it's this idea of the rib cage. I think if you get the torso right, everything falls into place. because limbs come off the torso, and you can move them up, move them down. In fact, in class, I usually say, do you want the arm up or the arm down? And the students dictate the pose, and I'm able to draw that based on this simple idea. Now, there's another instructor called Will Weston, who's really great, and he sort of drew my attention to these little underpants ideas for the hips. So I want to shout out for Will there, because that was where I first saw that. But for me, it was always 2 eggs, and I'm incorporating that now. But basically, for me, it's always been egg. I'm the man in the egg world. And this stuff here is me working against type. I'm having a look at all the techniques I ever looked at that didn't work and trying them out.
Okay. I like this idea.
That's what I'm doing over there in the corner in the right-hand side. Just trying out everything to see if I can handle the pain of it. It was actually wasn't too bad. But there's where I really draw, like this. Getting the torso right. If I can get that, I can just throw anything off it. So the whole idea of the apprentice to wizard, and also in the middle there, young wizard. I'll give you a little bit of, extra help along the way and say, here's the young wizard moment. And you can go back and forth into it. So with each of the potions, these are potions. You get 18 potions, and they'll take you into that world of mastery. And I'll let you know on the screen whether this is apprentice level or wizard level, because you can jump back and forth at any point.
I see.
Here you can see, because I'm a big believer too, Stephen, in just jumping in at the deep end. Because I think if you jump in at the deep end, it tells you what you don't know.
Absolutely.
You try something tricky and you go, I can't do this. And you identify what it is. You go, it's the scapula, and go have a look at that portion.
To kind of bring it back to what the person had mentioned earlier, I think that's one of the things that is so beneficial about a master study. If you sit down, you start looking at that piece, they were mentioning Frazetta. If you look at the thing and you start to actually try to make it yourself, and you don't fully know how to actually render that thing that you're seeing with your eye by using your hand, I think you very quickly discover where your weaknesses are, which I do think actually is one of the cool things about doing a master study. We did a live stream with the artist Lucas Panador recently, and he was talking about the way that a master study works for him. He goes into it with intention. He looks at it and he thinks, what do I like about this line decker piece? And what is it that I want to try to recreate with this particular study? Whether that's going to be colors, like the way that the brush works, things like that. I think that it's one of the biggest strengths to it. So a person jumping in on the deep end, that's good.
Yeah. I actually busted myself in a lie accidentally there, Stephen.
What was that?
I was thinking of a painting. I've done some master studies in this course that I'm promoting right now. So let me find some of that stuff. So I have done some master studies of a great artist called John Buscema. Do you know him, Stephen?
Absolutely.
Oh, John Buscema. How did he do it? Big John Buscema. I don't think he was that big. I think that was hyperbole.
He's big in the way that you stand on the shoulders of giants. He's one of those giants.
He is a giant. He was amazing. You can see here I'm breaking down some of my paintings there into the drawings that I'm doing in the course to show how beneficial they are. Just simple. So for me, it's simple to complex every time. So let me get that Frazetta thing, since we're on that topic, and try and keep on topic. Let's see, rhythms of life, illusionary dimensions. There's so much in it. Look, here's all your potions. Wizard Exceller, and we have the rhythm of life. We have a measure of foreshortening, illusionary dimensions. I put all these in the pot. A pinch of gravity. Let's have a look at a pinch of gravity. Gestural alchemy.
And Patrick, what was the name of this course again?
This is From Apprentice to Wizard.
There you go, guys.
There you go. Coming out very soon. It's previewing right now. Nobody's seen it. A couple of my students have seen it, but basically this is it here. So here's a sample of why I think the rib cage is the most important thing. So here I go with just that very simple idea of a ball, and I don't know what you would call that, a sprocket.
I'm okay with sprocket. Sure. We'll go with sprocket.
we'll go sprocket there. But here's the thing about it. Once you get that right, and these are all from imagination, these drawings, by the way. So I really don't want to be hindered by proportion, because I know that if I do a longer drawing, I can sort that out. So for me, it's just getting that flow right. But notice here that I've drawn this from imagination and filled in all these little moments, that like the bite of the leg going in, and this gap here where a belt would fit. So I've got all of those little mnemonics in mind, the folding point here just below the rib cage. And from this anchor point of the pelvis, I can pull that figure across. You see how I'm doing it right there? Ghost-like. Watch, here it comes. There it is there. Just pulling it across like that. So it originally stood here, and now it's down there. And nothing has really moved. Everything is rock solid because the hips are fused. So if I take it over here, I can bend that figure forward this way, like that. So you can imagine like an animation. And it would help animators, actually, to get this right.
Yeah, this is one of those key core things that you start building a figure off of.
Yeah, every time. And once you get into the flow of it, once again, have a look here. All I'm thinking about there is a waist-wide tube. I want to keep it nice and simple. A waist-wide tube. And then I'll add to it. This, I call it the Liberty Bell, but you have to have your own mnemonics, whatever you think of. You know, that could be any. What do you see there, Stephen? What would you call that shape?
I mean, I think the classic one is it's the pear, right?
It looks like a pear, yeah.
Pear, upside down guitar pick, upside down heart.
Yes, you find your own. That for me, it's the Liberty Bell, and the reason I use it is because you can see under the bell, and that's where we sit. So I think of it like that, but it's whatever works for you. That's what mnemonics are all about. But you can see how
every time a person goes to sit, just bong.
That's it. Sit on your bell. Yeah, you can see how much flexibility you can get into it, and how it starts to become lively and gestural. I mean, I'm all about the flow of art every single time. So for me, boxes were not something that worked for me, but a curved box does. That curved idea. And you can start to see the flow that comes into work. Once again, there's the waist-wide tube, and there. Yeah, go on, Stephen.
Patrick,
if there's questions.
There are some questions, but I did think I was reading through the chat here. Someone said Liberty Bell better than pear, and then I thought, make a joke about how the Liberty Bell, is a bad bell. It's got this big old crack in it. Actually, I take it back. This is perfect. The butt has a crack in it too.
There you go. That's
Patrick,
perfect mnemonics. Perfect mnemonics. There we go. Another one I like to use is a mermaid's tail, because I love fantasy. So this mermaid's tail here takes us up right to covers over the folding point. So basically, I've dropped the idea of these two shapes, these two sizes, down to the Mrs. V here. So I call her Mrs. V, and Mr. T is the shoulders. So I can then bend between these 2 points at any time, and then go left and right of that. And that I can see from this, especially on these straight up poses like this one. Sometimes it looks absolutely symmetrical. And then what you can do with it is actually give that a check and see. So if I put Mr. T on here, like this. So this is my first call all the time. So I look for the clavicles. And I look for the neck where it fits into the clavicles. Like that. And then I go right through the navel, like this. Go through the navel, have a journey down there to Mrs. V, like this. And then I can find the tilt. So once I have that tilt, I've got Mr. T on my team. So Mr. T has found the tilt, like this. And that means that we have the weight-bearing foot here. Like that. But look how these directions are. Look at that direction. Look how that is compared to this on that leg. And that'll stop you drawing legs like this. So for me, once I have those two things, I can put the rib cage in. So the rib cage for me is really important. Rib cage always makes itself known here, like that. It's an odd looking little shape. I prefer it as an egg. Oops. I prefer it as an egg, just as a simple mnemonic. So from the side, that rib cage would look like this for me. And then this would be foreshortened, that clavicle. So the clavicles are a hand length each. So if I take that and do this, it's the same length as if she had her hand and finger out like this. So that would be the clavicle length.
Mm.
See that? And for me, that's a really easy mnemonic to work out, because this is also a hand length to here and down to here, like that. So I like this little skydiver idea where he has his feet like this. And if you look, there's a little guy there doing this. See that? And his feet give you the corner of the ribs. So that's a great mnemonic for me. And then I can take the breasts across like this and treat them as one thing. And they're also following the tilt to some degree. So once I have that tilt, I've also got the pinch. So I'm always identifying the pinch here and the stretch there like that. So if I have those two things, then I just simply take my Liberty Bell, and this is going to change a little bit around the back because the gluteus are lower. You can already see that. See that?
Mm-hmm.
The gluteus are going underneath. But that's okay, because at the back, the rib cage is higher too. So at the back, it's the same idea, that this from here to here is relatively a half. That's how I kind of really just work out that simplicity of it. And then we fold here like that. So we have that little shape. So I'm always looking at these moments to go through the figure and understand how it works. And for me, structure has to have some gesture in it. So if I'm drawing an arm, it has to be like that.
Patrick, is there a chance, could you make your brush a little bit bigger?
A bigger again? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's have a look.
Perfect. I hope
Is that
that's a little
perfect?
more visible for you guys.
Okay. Yeah. So the great thing about that, once you've got that little kind of wireframe look, another thing, if someone's wearing pants like this, it actually helps you a little bit. It gives you the iliac crest. See that? Right there. And these are perfect, actually. This is the Obscura guys. You guys have them on your website, and I love their model. They're really good models. And you've got that little 3-finger gap here, like that, which works perfectly on these pants. I like to think of a belt like this, a nice big 1970s belt. You know, like you saw those student protesters wear way back in the 70s. They looked so cool. That's great, because what it does is it tells you where the leg inserts like this.
There's a question here in the chat. I know there are some other questions, but this one is pretty timely. So Royal Alex 15 says, yes, but do those demonic devices work for different angles and perspectives, especially extreme perspectives?
They do, and they'll change, but they'll work. Like let's say we have a foreshortened view like this. And we've already got this idea of a waist-wide tube. So there's a waist-wide tube here, like that. So I can take that waist-wide tube like this, and there's a head coming toward us. Whoops. I'm terrible drawing on the screen, by the way. So let's say
you're doing great.
We had someone like this, and it was all foreshortened. Then what you have is a mushroom shape now. So you've got from the back here, this kind of shape. So someone's coming at us like this, lying down, like that kind of thing. Then you have a mushroom shape. The body's coming away from us like this. Or you can stand the figure up like this. It's a strange looking pose. Like that. Someone here would have to move and come down here like this. And then we'd be around like this. So it works. It works from all different angles. I'm messing the whole game up there, aren't I?
I think you're doing fine right now.
Starting to get complicated there. Drawn in the photo too. Big rookie mistake. Let's go back to history. So history. So yeah, I can keep taking questions at any point there. It's always this fussy stuff that catches me off.
So I do think that there are some here. I think you can answer this one as you work to find what you're looking for there. So Kareem was asking, do you work from life or usually from reference? And which do you enjoy more? Also, They said, thank you for the awesome stream.
You're welcome. Thank you. Life all the time. It's if I had a constant life model that I can employ. We were talking the other day about in the future, if we were so wealthy, I would have a life model just living here, and I would shout out, it's time. just
I feel
on my beck and call. That would be a dream.
there's not just like some person walking around your house that you could have do this.
They're walking around the house, but they're not. They're not gonna. They're not gonna.
They're not going to pose for you.
They're not there for my. They're not there at my whim.
That's fair.
I've got to be so cautious with my words. Who's trying to catch me out with words? Yeah, it works.
There are some other questions here. So Conrad is an absolute beginner, it sounds like. They said, I have a question. For someone who hasn't really done art before, what's the best way to start practicing? What should I focus on primarily? And what practice should I be doing?
Well, I would do what I was going to do when I had the live screen. Let's have a look up, or when I had the traditional stuff. Gestural alchemy. Let's have a look at that. So you can see how wonderful it is when you get the pencil on paper. And I know that the brushes that, like you were showing me, was it Lane brushes?
Oh, yeah. Lane's brushes are beautiful.
They look fantastic, yeah. For me, I would have to get them perfect because nothing is, for me, more fluid than this kind of thing here.
I'd
love to try them out. But you can see how I think the main problem for me is the gestural hand. I have to get all my fingers on that surface.
Mm-hmm.
And once they make a brush where I can do that, I'm in. I'm totally in. But I think everyone should embrace both technologies. I'll do my color roughs, for instance, in a digital platform like Photoshop or Corel Painter for my paintings, and it really speeds the whole thing up. But I just love this. I just love dropping that pencil down onto its flat and then pulling it back up again onto its point. So for that question, as an absolute beginner, this course is built for that, where I take it down to the simplest thing. Automatic drawing's pretty good sometimes. If you don't know that term, it just basically just draw and not think about proportion. Start at the top. The best way to do that is side to side. Just keep going from one side to the other. I'll see if I can find an example of it. So I'll go back into my potions and take them in order.
Okay.
Like I said, I can take questions at any point. Let's go to potion 1, the elements of alchemy.
I definitely want you to get to show the thing that you're talking about here with the automatic drawing.
Oh, yes.
But then after that, I definitely have some more questions queued up for you here.
Okay, let's see if I can get it. Well, this is kind of a little bit of automatic drawing here, where I just basically do streams of consciousness. Let me find it. So there's a little bit of automatic drawing there. So you don't start with anything. You just start drawing. So here, right there. And I start a class with this. I have all my students draw each other without looking at the page. And that way you just get crazy marks. And they're beautiful marks. And it frees up your apprehension to draw because you don't know what you're going to do. So there's a bit of automatic drawing there. See how I'm going from one side to the other? I think one side to the other is one of the greatest things that I brought into my repertoire. You just keep going in a diagonal. Can you see my hands? Can you see me on the screen, guys?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
I can make you larger here as well.
I draw like this, that, all the way down, because I'm right-handed, so you might have to do it on the left hand. But see how I went from one side to the other? The minute I'm doing a cheekbone, I want to know what the other cheekbone's doing. And I keep that flow going as long as I can. Even though this looks like I'm going from side to side in a horizontal, I'm always a little vertical with it. And another thing that this does that frees up your hand is everything's a little bit asymmetrical. And when you look at a face, it seems symmetrical. And then you look closer again, and no one has a symmetrical face. And that's what makes this kind of drawing so beautiful. Because if you have symmetry, it kind of looks a bit spooky. It's that uncanny valley thing. You've probably seen it where they split a face in half and they put one half to the next, and it just looks bizarre. It looks weird. And they lose all their personality. They become this little sort of android character. It's quite strange. But there's what I do. Streams of consciousness.
I agree. I think going into a page and just letting yourself not have to look at this pure flat color thing can be, it's so intimidating to look at that. Just free it up, go through it, get the hand moving, get an easy win.
An easy win. That's, people are too hard on themselves. Everyone's going, oh, I've got to do this. I've got to go through this whole academic rigor before I can even start drawing. Start
Mhm.
drawing right now and let that rigor come in when it's needed.
Mhm.
So, like I say, that you'll teach yourself what you don't know by jumping in at that deep end. But for me, there's nothing more beautiful than this. I just love this.
Mhm.
And the reason this is so beneficial, and this is for everyone just starting out, you walk cold into your life draw class, you're clanging around, you're kicking over the bucket, you don't know anyone, you put your jacket over someone's coffee, all kinds of things go on in the life draw class.
Mhm.
So I get in there early and I have all my tools ready to go. I put them in a little pencil box like this. It's so low tech, little pencil box with some
It's
tissue in
perfect.
it. Yeah, some tissue in it. But all the main thing is the pencils are sharpened.
Mhm.
They're all ready to go. So if one breaks, you can just continue on again. So for me, once you're making these marks, what you're really doing is you're drawing a curved hip. You're drawing on those little detail parts. You're drawing maybe a bone. All of these marks are already in your hand and in your muscle memory before the model poses. And the second they pose, you're drawing. So for me, this streams of consciousness idea. It also hones your pencil. It
Mhm.
makes it the best pencil or the best little charcoal piece that you're ever going to draw with. Because
Right.
I was sharpening them this morning and they had grit in them and everything. And then once you start drawing for a while, like I'm doing here, it adjusts to your hand, the weight you use, the way you turn your hand. You can see all my knuckles are on the page here as I move. You can see them getting dirtier and dirtier. And then I can ease up or drop down onto the flat. So I'm turning that little piece all the time to get edges. It's an amazing piece of technology that's I think it's 60,000 years old.
Yeah, that's when we made the best tech.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think
s-
we've
we peaked in the past.
yeah, they pulled
Uh,
it out of a fire. It might even be they're saying 100,000 years ago now
oh goodness.
for
Uh,
the cave paintings.
there was one question here. I think you might be uniquely poised to answer.
Oh yeah.
So Royal Alex was asking, can you reveal form with just halftone by modeling, or must you always separate light and dark and add transitions? What do
Right.
you
Let me get my
think?
head around that again. Are we talking about the mid-tone is the beginning, then you put dark and light on each side? Is that just to clarify that question?
I was wondering if they meant it just to be mid-toned, like just with half tones, like without any dark or light.
Oh yeah.
I'm not too sure if that's
Oh,
what they mean, but Royal Alex, feel
absolutely.
free to say something in the chat if you mean it differently.
Absolutely, you can do that, and I love it. And so I would do that with this charcoal piece, this little charcoal piece. I'll do big broad strokes with that. I think it's a great idea actually, because see, once you get a pencil, it's like an indelible mark, and once you make it, you've almost committed to it. But look how I do many lines many times right in here. See that? Little
Mhm,
pentamentos. Give yourself a break. And my big mantra is long, light, and loose. So you start it with the longest line you can. There it is there. With the lightest hand you can. And if you do that every time, then everything gets smaller and smaller. So you've worked out the big thing first. So big to small. If you're
mhm,
working the other way, if you think about that the other way, if it's small to big, you see it in sort of street performances. You see in London, if you go to London to Leicester Square, someone's drawing a portrait of someone and they start with an eye and then
mhm,
they work it out of the eye. And that's great because it's just a one trick pony kind of thing.
mhm,
You whisper in that guy's ear, can you do a full figure? They'll have a heart attack because this is kind of something that they've worked out. With this idea of big to small, you can draw anything, absolutely anything at all. So
mhm,
if you take the long, light, and loose idea and your drawing's not going well, and ask yourself, did I just lose a long, a light, or a loose in here? And you'll probably find that one of those has happened. So if we switch that around and say, uh, long is now short, light is now dark, and loose is now tight. So you've done something too tight, you've something's too dark, or you're working on the small stuff first. So
mm,
don't sweat the small stuff and give yourself a little break as well. So I'm going to just stop this for a second to show you what I'm thinking all the time. So there's two pieces we saw earlier. There's the clavicles. So from here to that curve is relatively the same distance down to Mrs. V. And then I overlap them because I like to have that flow to see what the bend's going to be. So by giving that drawing through business, it means I know where the crease is going to be right on that hip. So these are all from imagination, but it's amazing what you can get out of it. And you can see that I'm starting to go a little bit heavier now because I had the luxury to do that based on the fact that I did very light first. So now I can go dark. But look what you can get out of it. So gesture, it's often discussed in obscure terms. What exactly is it? Well, it's the line that runs through the forms. So there's a form and there's a form. And this line running through can be imaginary, but it can also be anatomy. So for me, that line at this point is the linea alba, which is a muscle that runs between the abdominals. But it's also up here, the sternum, going down to Mrs. V here. So there's the gesture between the forms, but look also the gesture I'm putting on the form, on the edge of the form right there. So for me, gesture's everywhere. But if I didn't have this little rudimentary thing here, that would have been grief in there. That would have been so hard to do. But now it's a joy. It's actually not only easy to do, I look forward to it. So we all remember when we used to dread drawing because it was tough. We go, oh, I'm getting to the hips now. It's too hard.
You got to take your weaknesses and make them into your strengths.
Take them and make it, yeah, and just enjoy it. Don't even worry about it. I mean, this we talked about when I visited you guys about clangers.
Absolutely. If you guys haven't seen that video, you should check it out. I'll pull the short link here for you guys.
Yeah, well, I think that people like that because everyone's hard on themselves. And clangers, it should be fun. I mean, we got into this for fun. We didn't get into this to be professional artists. I don't think that was even in our minds when we started drawing. And then it did become that. And then we started going, oh, well, if I'm going to be professional, I better take this more seriously. And right there's the rub. Then you lost something. But look at how much I can vary in and out of this and still get something that works. So a woman puts weight on here. And so we have that variety as much as we want. So we don't have to be working off a mannequin that's always that same rigid mannequin like I've got here. You know, Mrs. Perfect. So once we vary off of that a little bit, we get real people. And that's a real person as well, of course. But we can go in and out of this. So if you're basically wedded to one model, everything's going to look the same. And working from imagination does do one thing. It throws the proportions off a little bit, but I don't mind that. I actually enjoy it because it'll now look unique. It won't look like the Riley method drawing. It'll look like your drawing. Now, this is a bit off, but here's the great thing about not caring. This is a bit off, and I can see that because it's a bit off. You know, your mind tells you what's off. So that first stroke was a better stroke. So, you know, that's the thing where you'll never see me erase here, very rarely anyway, is because that's the history of my thoughts. And if I'd erased that and got to here, we've all been there, then you're going, oh, I've messed this up, I'll start again. You don't. You can use this line here. You can use any one of those lines in between.
So, Patrick, there was one question here. There are a couple that I think kind of pair nicely together. There's one from Gannon that I'll ask after this first one, but first we've got one from Jay. So when is this course coming out? And does it include light and shadow lessons?
Stephen, you're going to have to answer that. And yes, it does.
Okay.
When is it coming out?
For when is it coming out?
You guys are going to release it first. It's premiering.
Really now?
Oh, did you know?
Because I don't get to work on that side of the things. I'm just here.
It's just a big reveal. Okay, well, there's the big reveal.
Okay.
I had planned this ahead. Look, I love Proko. I love everything about Proko. I've been following Proko forever. So it was a great privilege for me to visit you guys. And you remember I was jet lagged and all over the place, but it was a wonderful experience. So when I joined the Proko team, it was really terrific. I was so excited about it. I thought, this is fantastic. I'm going to go and see everyone in San Diego. And it was one of the nicest things one of the best choices that I made, because I nearly just got on the flight back when I saw how far San Diego was from Los Angeles. I thought I'll walk down there, or else I'll get a Segway, and then I realized it's like a 3-hour flight. But I did it anyway. I got on the Amtrak. I love the Amtrak.
Really? Yeah, well, this makes sense.
This
is a much better experience. I wish the Amtrak would actually take us everywhere here in the United States. But
I love it.
Just the way.
I can't believe they got building permission to actually drive a train through a beach. Couldn't believe it. There's people sunbathing. I can see people in their sunsuits.
Well, it's because the entire United States is just all beaches, Patrick. So
Yeah,
we have to put a train through some
you
beach,
have to.
otherwise it can't go anywhere.
It's like a playground for adults to be toddlers again. I loved it. I was hanging out the window. It was wonderful. So anyway, that's yeah. I'm getting a bit off track there, but
Man,
yeah.
I wonder if I can see it here. I mean, I'm gonna look and see if there's an actual date in here that says when this is gonna come out. I imagine there's
Oh yeah,
not.
yeah.
But I'll look in the meantime. But if you want to answer a different question here from Gannon
Okay,
Beck, who asked a very good set of questions.
okay.
Gannon asks good questions in the community and here. You're a legend. Um, they said, how does this course differ from the other figure drawing courses that are already on Proko? Uh, so I don't think you'll necessarily have this one. I think the thing you can probably speak to is how this might vary from your own lessons.
Yeah,
And then they asked, what is the ideal student for this course?
the ideal student for this, a curious student. I think if you're incurious, you're off to a hard start.
Mm,
So this is for me, fantasy was always my love. I loved it because I'm a curious person. I want to see what is it we're learning this for? What is the point of drawing the figure? Is it to understand something? Yes, it is. But is it for something else? And for me, it is. It's so I can express myself as a fantasy artist, and I want it to be the most fluid experience possible. So I was in advertising for a long time, and everyone was tracing everything because the deadlines were so tight, and nobody cared how it was done. And so the most realistic artist got all the work, and you could spend 4 days posing a model and then gridding it out or whatever you wanted to do, or you could trace a photo in 20 minutes and
mhm,
then just render it. And our skills depleted like you've never seen anything deplete.
mm,
It was amazing. I couldn't draw a stick after a while. And we had artists suffering anxiety because they would get a change to their art and they'd have to go and get the model and come back and pose for a photo shoot again.
mm,
So this course is for people that love to draw, love to imagine, and want to draw from imagination, but also want to know how can drawing from imagination benefit you drawing realistically. And this is how it all feeds in. So for me, tracing a photo, or even like everything's tracing if you do something verbatim. If I
mhm,
was to grid it up, or I was to measure my eye with with the pencil, it's called sight science, but it's sort of an oxymoron because for me you're using a tool, whereas I do use sight. I just look and glance. So when I'm actually drawing in the light draw class, I set my easel up so it's exactly model easel, and I just move my eyes back and forth like this.
mhm,
Looks a bit sinister, but I think if you turn your head, you've got that problem of disconnection.
mm,
Whereas if I'm just moving my eyes, then I can actually see the flicker on the page of what's right and what's wrong. And so I don't really need to measure anything because once I get the torso right, everything can work off of that. And if it is a little bit long or a little bit short, it looks fantastic because it has your hand. Look how fluid this little drawing is becoming because I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. Everything is on the page. I have
mm,
my entire psyche connected to this drawing. So I'm enjoying every stroke. So for me, every line should be a thought. If every line is a measurement, it's not a thought. So as I'm drawing that clavicle, for instance, I'm saying, okay, it's a curve that's foreshortened. It's got a nice little loop on the end. So every time you see me pause for a second there, I'm asking myself, should I use the broad of the pencil or the thin of it?
mm,
And what kind of curve is that? Is it starting long and fast? Or is it a little quick thing? So I'm thinking of animation all the time as well. I'm thinking about timing. I like to do strokes that are long and end with a short, or start with a short and end with a long. Anything like that, the variation. There's one there right on the shoulder, actually, and the sternocleidomastoid there. So there's a lot of anatomy there, right there on the breast.
mhm,
So there's a little short and there's a long. It's a tricky thing because in animation, this is a fast line because you only use one frame for that. You put a frame here, a drawing there, or maybe a drawing there and a drawing here, and that would move fast.
Mm.
So for me, that's a fast line, and then it stops quickly, you would say, but it's a slowdown. So it's a slow in, slow, fast, slow. And I have that rhythm, and I'm doing it all the way through here. And identifying where, there we go again. It's a short, and this is a hard line. So that's a curve. Look at this curve, hard. If we can get a curve after a hard line or a hard line after a curve, everything looks solid and gestural at the same time. So I'm loving drawing this. I always love the drawing. If you're not loving the drawing, you got to stop. You got to stop and ask yourself, why are you not enjoying this?
Mhm.
And it could be that you don't understand something, or it could be that you're taking it too seriously. So, and it could be that most likely that every line isn't a thought. You're not thinking about it. So look at
Okay.
that. One side to the other for those little eyes, broad of the pencil. Now, I say I'm thinking about that, but it's subliminal now. So the more drawings you do, the more that subconscious art engine gets fed.
Yeah,
And
you let the thing just take over.
you let it take over. Just like in sports, you see the gymnasts, they're no longer thinking about the foot going on the bar and the curve and the turn. They're not thinking about that anymore. They've done it 100,000 times.
Mhm.
And now you just clear it. You clear all of that stuff and let it run. So the foreground is for the art. The background is for all that mechanical stuff that you've learned so well all the way
Yeah.
through.
And
But yeah,
there's this. So first and foremost, Gannon, I think like whether there was any specific actual like a word in there that you would take from this, I don't know if that answered specifically what you were looking for, but I think the fact that like the core ideas of what Patrick was saying in there, I think those are the things that make this course different than other instructors that you're going to have on Proko.
oh yeah, that was the question, wasn't it?
Yeah, there are some instructors who are really like technical, like really intensely technical with the placement of things, the things that they're looking for as landmarks. Those things are still present in your teachings, in your lessons, in your courses, in your books.
Yeah.
It's just something that you also let have more mnemonic devices. Like
That's right.
you don't necessarily make something be quite so rigid, and that
Yeah.
also applies to the way that you render something.
Yeah.
You're okay with something being a little bit misplaced every once in a while because
Yeah.
it's not actually being misplaced. It's not
That's
a bad thing.
perfect, Stephen. You can just say it all for me because that's exactly what it is. Yeah, I think where I don't like to compare as well, but
Yeah, that's
I
fair.
think I think where my course is uniquely my course is that I'm all about gesture, but it doesn't mean I forego structure. Everything's structural in here, but it has a curve to it. You see that? And I'm all about one side to the other as well. So this course basically, because there's 18 hours of it, is that you know how you draw the figure from the front, the side, and the back. That's great if you're just going to draw a figure from the front, side, and the back for the rest of your life. What's different about this course for me is I made it for me when I was 20. And for me, learning those three things was invaluable. But when a pose turned a little bit, I was back to square one again, you know? So what I'm doing here is I'm drawing lots of short drawings. I mean, hundreds of them from slightly different positions. But all the time, I have in mind these mnemonics. There's so many of them. I'll just, so we're not overburdened, just say that the first two is Mr. T from the front or back and Mrs. V here to get
Mhm.
that sacrum. And I'll do so many drawings. You can see the one up there we just did on the right. I'll do loads of them. I'll just keep turning them around 3/4 all the time, lots and lots. And anywhere in that course, if you ever get a drawing or a pose that isn't front, side, or back, you can go through this. You can just tumble through and go, here's Patrick doing it from 3/4, but the 3/4 is a little different because 3/4 is very specific, isn't it? You measure 3 equal quarters. It's never been that. So basically, 3/4 means you see, 3 sides of something, and the other one's kind of invisible, but they vary. It's not equal 3/4. So I'll turn this figure in every way I can possibly think of, coming at you, going away from you, and won't kind of cheat the R's by doing a 2 hour render, where I just zone out. The most important stuff, and it always has been, is what's under it. and what's under it is what I concentrate on all the time. But I do render at the end. I will do a little bit of render to get you into that render world. But for me, with it being for beginners, most of it is what I think is important, which is this. And of course, I've got other courses. I have the fantasy female figure course on Proko as well, and that takes you into really deep render. So if you had this course to begin with, that's why people ask for, can we have that course first? Well, I did in reverse. If you have this course to begin with, you can easily transform your skills into the next stage, the sorcerer. Let's call that sorcerer level by picking up the fantasy female figure course. So that'll take you into it.
Okay, I like that as the top tier for that.
Yeah.
So this person's name here, I don't think I copied the name. Is Patrick planning on getting a reprint of some of his books? PDFs are great, but when you want to travel peacefully, the battery is at a premium. I think they mean for like their iPad.
Oh yeah. Well, that's a great question. You know, it's always asked. I think what it is that with everyone self-publishing now, I think it's almost a given that the author, that the artist is making the book, but I don't actually make the books. The books are published in the old
publisher.
Yeah, they're published in the old-fashioned way. They're published out of London by Carrero Press. So Carrero Press are the place to go to. But to answer your question, to keep away and not keep you in suspenders, yes, the Anatomy of Style revised and updated is just getting its final package, and that's going to come out sometime.
Okay.
It won't take so long. The distributors have got a say in it as well. But yeah,
physical stuff's hard.
It is hard, and they run out very quickly as well, because a publisher can't take the risks they used to in the old days. So they publish a shorter run now. And you know what used to be a bestseller was 100,000 copies, and now, would you believe it, a bestseller, a New York Times bestseller, is 10,000 copies. That's how much the world of publishing is depleted.
It's changed.
It really has. But I'm the same. I love books. I get them all the time, and I buy them when they come out because I know that every publisher is doing the same thing. So if you see a good book, you better pick it up. It's
absolutely
not the 70s anymore. They're going to go out really fast. But yeah, so The Power of Osmosis is coming out this year. The Anatomy of Style revised and updated is coming out as well.
There was another question here. They said they recognize to them that this is the wrong place to ask, but they were wondering when your new Masters Academy course is coming out.
Oh, right. Well, I'm in the dark as much as you guys. I see, there was so much footage. I recorded hundreds of hours of working with a model, something that's never really done that much, not done that often. But I recorded many hours of working with the model, giving them emotional prompts, showing how it is that, you know, we have all these resources of models, and they're great and everything. We can get them off the internet. And it's fantastic. And I like maybe more of a package thing like Obscura that I'm using as models, or was going to use as models today. I got a professional package off them to use in my work. I think they're terrific too. And when you're just starting off, that's what you've got. But there's nothing better than hiring a model, showing them the roughs. Let me just get a little bit, since we're segueing into it. I'll just pause this and I'll go in here. So when I'm using models, I show them little color roughs first. I'll I'll bring into the studio with me, let's see, something like this, for instance. So that's a digital rough. I did that in Corel Painter. And for me, there's no pain in that at all. There's no expense. I'll just do that, get all the color worked out. And when I do them in real life, it's only about that size, just little tiny. I used to call them thumbnails. In fact, Roy Crinkle used to draw them thumbnail size. It was amazing what he could do. And it just makes you see everything much clearer. I think one of the big problems I saw students, or big mistakes students made in my traditional class, walk-in class, when I taught them on computer, they would be doing their storyboards on computer, and they'd have the storyboard the size of the screen, one storyboard. And so I had to really make, I don't like rules, but I had to make one rule, which was give me 6 storyboard panels on your screen and never zoom in. And then we started to really understand that this is a fast process and it's a clear process. When you zoom in, it's not clear anymore.
It's interesting. We actually just did a stream yesterday with the artist Jeremy Vickery. He works in film, television, things like that. and he was taking us through the process of doing a color key for like visual production, just deciding the
Oh yeah,
lighting, different things
yeah,
like that. And it absolutely the exact same thing. He has just a sheet, and he has to work at that scale
yep,
to make sure that something actually reads at a distance like that. It's not
yeah.
about making your details.
Absolutely. And look how much time it saves, because it not only saves time. Here's my first. This was going to be a massive. It is a massive painting. It's finished. So this was a massive painting with multiple figures in it. Doing the roughs like this is not a waste of time, because it also, in your mind, gives you a clear idea where you're going. So I start to write all these notes on the sides like this. Conan captured by swarm in Amazon. Conan trust in slave collar. Okay, trust. I'm using old English there. You like old English, don't you, Stephen?
Absolutely.
That means he's caught by it. I don't know why I went all
Yeah,
Victorian there.
with your two S's. Yeah, for me, because you were talking about the word trust, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right. Trust. That's what it is. Yeah, it's
yeah,
spelled wrong. You're right. And I'm an
yeah.
awful speller. It is.
When I
It's
think of that word,
trust.
it's all just guitar related for me.
Yeah. Oh, is it? Does it go that way? All right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it was an S there, and it looks like a T, and then I read it that way.
that's how
And
it
that's the
goes.
thing as well. You don't know. You send it to the collector, and they go, "What's he talking about? Conan trusts his color." Bound by ropes. But for me, it makes perfect sense. But look how there was many iterations of this, because it was going to be a
Mhm.
big thing, and some of them were too close to Frazetta. I love
I
Frazetta,
see.
and it starts to get like that. But this is holy PJ artworks right here. I want that figure in there somehow to be
Mhm.
like that. And then just basically, that's a different picture. Sorry, different picture there. But there's plenty of them. Let me see if I can find some more. Some ideas get reused later, by the way.
Mhm.
But
Absolutely. That's one of the best things about ideation. You may feel like, nothing that I'm coming up with here is the right
yeah,
thing. But then later on, you're going to try to start this new piece, and you're going to go, that's the thing that I
yeah,
did before.
that's right. Never anything is a waste of time. It'll
Mhm.
always teach you something. But that painting in oils, it had to have all of that preparation
Mhm.
beforehand. They end up with a big canvas that you ship off to, for me, it's shipping it off to America. And you have to know how to draw and how light falls. I mean, the rope and the bite of the rope into that. I can't show the photo reference because I didn't get the chance to do that autofill
Mm.
thing yesterday. But basically, that was great, by the way. That was gold, Stephen. I love
I was
that.
teaching Patrick to use some of the built-in
Oh,
tools in Photoshop to make photo
look,
reference worthy for YouTube.
fearless. I've no fear about putting that on. For some reason, gluteus aren't offensive. I don't know. Maybe it's because they're funny. They make you laugh a little bit. That's the kind of pose I love there. When I
Mhm.
get into render, that's what I want to do. A really beautiful,
Mhm.
exciting, dramatic pose like that. But yeah, so do lots of preparatory stuff. Let's see if I can find
There was one
this.
question here. A person, they were kind of revisiting a question that they were asking a little bit back and forth.
Yeah,
So I think we'll go for it. I think that you addressed it a little bit, but their initial
yeah,
question, as they phrased it, was, "When I see Patrick he works slowly and diligently, not saying it is something wrong, but
yeah.
often I see very energetic hand movements and fast with gesture drawing.
Yeah.
Why do you tend away from this? Why do you draw so methodically, Patrick Jones?"
Do I?
In their estimation,
Well, I draw really fast when it comes. I mean, when I was working with the new masters, they were surprised about how much they got done.
you
Saying,
do draw incredibly fast. I
I
think
thought I did
I
draw
think that I
fast.
mean there there's sometimes when you'll carve out a line. You spend some time, like
Oh, I see what you mean.
getting
Oh,
in on something, some little movements.
I got it. Yeah, no, that's what it is. That's the love part. So I see what you mean. Yeah, that's bringing the love home. Let's call it that. It's bringing the love home. So when I'm doing this kind of stuff, you could call this methodical, but every bit of it's love. I love doing these thumbnails. I mean, here's what's amazing about art is I don't know what it's going to be like. And I start making these little scribbles, and then I see this and I go, wow, it's like you didn't do it yourself. I go, oh, that's going to look great. And then I have to do it. And then I go, well, do a color rough. Oh, wow, it's nearly a painting if I squint. Oh, I've still got to do it. And then you do it. And then that's bringing the love home right there. You get to
Mhm.
go in and do all that lovely stuff, birds in the background. And also always be drawing when you're painting is a good tip as well. Don't just be tracing that initial drawing down and then
Mhm.
just never varying off that, because you won't get that energy. Like you can see here, but as I'm painting this mermaid, for instance,
I do
look
like seeing
how
these process shots. This is cool.
thank you. Well, look at how energetic those brush strokes are there. I'm not even thinking about, I see artists and they render here, and then they go
Mhm.
to the next part and they render there. They go to the next part. So basically, I'm painting the way I draw. All of this feeds in. That's why I love charcoal on paper. I think charcoal on newsprint is the gateway to painting oils on canvas because it has
Mm.
the same feel. You have the broad end of the pencil represents the broad end of the brush. You tip it up. The brushes I like to use are the actual hard edge brushes, the chisel brushes, because
Mhm.
I can get a broad and a flat, anything I want. It's basically like a pencil to me. And that's what I'm working with there. But watch. So at this point, I'm just blasting that. And look how many changes I've made here to that arm.
Mhm.
See that? So I'm now, forget about the pencil. The pencil can only get you so far, because the minute you put the paint on, the pencil's gone. At that point now, you're totally at sea without a rudder if you don't know how to draw. And from that point, there's so many changes all the way. And the changes actually make nice little lines. Like in real life, this is popping because of that little corona of line there from changes. And same here, this is all popping. So our eye actually doesn't see hard edge to hard edge the way way a photograph does. And that's why the old masters' work still looks so fresh, because they were working with their natural eye. They didn't have photography. So when the Victorian era came along and they had photography, art started to look very crisp. You just look at the pre-Raphaelites, for instance, looked
Mhm.
really crisp because you're not looking with the human eye anymore. You're looking through the camera lens. And you've only got to look through a glass of water and see just how hard the light and darks are because of that, just that moment that glass comes into the process.
Yeah.
You get
That big
extra hard.
change.
Yeah, it's a huge change. So with my human eye, I'm thinking, as I come up to that arm, this is kind of a bit fuzzy just along that edge, just for a brief moment.
Mhm.
And James Gurley did a wonderful deep dive into that and found that in real life, that we can only focus and then refocus. We don't completely focus all the time.
Yeah. There's actually a thing that happens now with, when they're doing something for a VR. They have this, foveated view, this field of view
Oh,
thing, where they'll just render full detail in one area that you're looking at, because the
yeah.
rest of it you're not taking in. Why waste all that time? And the same idea applies to art. If you're looking at one particular thing, you want these more details for someone to look at in one area of focus.
Yeah,
Put all the detail there. Everything else, throw it back. It just
absolutely.
falls off into the background. It's a lost edge.
Yeah, a lost edge. And that's where the we have the authority to do that. And also no camera can do that. No camera
Mhm,
can say a lost edge where you feel like it needs to be.
mhm.
Once again, if you look here, the the value and tone in here is so far back from the value and tone here. And if I choose to put, like, say, for instance, we've got a glow here, sometimes I will take a little bit of what the camera does do and put a blur on there. So
Mm,
we have the authority to do anything we want. But my whole ethos is that if we get close to another figure like this, then this shield cannot be that hard edge that it is here against that
I see.
chest.
Yeah,
It
you wanna
would it would
separate
look awful. It'd be awful and clunky. And we're working on a 2D surface. So to show dimension, I'm going to put more blues in here and more warms in here, because the human eye already sees that. As you recede in space, you see more blues and less of the reds in the spectrum. So, a little bit of science goes a long way. Like, like for instance, as we drop a shadow, the softer the shadow means whatever's dropped the shadow is a little bit further away. So that's a
Mhm.
softer shadow right there. I just love this idea. When you go up in a summer's day, you go into the shadows, and just before that, you get this little corona of heat
Uh-huh.
just there. Oh,
It's
I
one of
live
my
for this.
favorite things, Patrick.
Is it?
Yeah,
Oh,
without question. The way that happens on the outside of a light, the way it happens on the outside of a shadow.
oh,
Oh,
I love
chef's
it.
kiss.
Yeah, I love it. And also, you've got to be aware of the internet as well. I mean, what's this right here? It's flesh, or is the advertising world made up? It's cellulite, which doesn't exist in the medical world at all. It's just flesh. But look how this is real now. We got how flesh behaves. We've got it there. So there's a lot of Photoshop stuff that will throw you off. So I'm very, very careful about the reference I use.
Gannon came through with another great question here. Thank you so much,
Oh,
Gannon. They asked how much rendering is going to be covered in the course. So I think we've been talking about this upcoming course a whole lot, but I do want
yeah.
to say that there are a bunch of courses, books, and things that Patrick does already have
Yes.
on his on both his website and on Proko currently.
Yeah.
But I do think that we should probably tell people about this upcoming course.
Yeah.
It's one that seems really fun.
Yeah. What was the student's name again?
This is Gannon Beck.
Gannon. You were my what do they call it when someone's helping you out somewhere? You were that guy for me. What is it? As wingman? You were my wingman. You were
They're doing the Lord's work right now.
Yeah, you were my wingman for the Fantasy Female Figures course, which is all a ton of render in it. And then people kept saying, "Can we get something a little bit more basic than that?" So you were with my wingman to pitch that course. This course will have render in it, but if you want render, it's Fantasy Female Figures. This one is to get you to that point, to get you from apprentice to master, and then understand why this stuff, like you can see here, is so important when you come to paint. Because when you come to paint, once that pencil, like I say, once that pencil sketch is covered, nothing's going to help you to understand all this muddy stuff that's in here. When you start looking at a life, especially a life model, you start to really panic because you've only got so much time to do something. But once you understand it's as simple as that underneath, see how there's light there and there's dark there? We didn't really see that because it was so soft. But basically, that's the folding point of the upper abs right there. And this is pushing out because that's pushing in. And so you can now see that there's a clear divide between darker and lighter there, which may not have been so visible at that point. But it is visible. See it? Right there. But it's all quite muddy now, isn't it? But once you learn this stuff, you can make up. I always use nude models, so I just make all of this stuff up. You can drop anything off the hip and think of that 1970s belt. You know, the top of this pubic triangle will give you the top. There's a tilt here. Will give you the top of that great trochanter, and the bottom of it will give you the center of it. So there's your great trochanter bone, and see how it's starting to pull in there, and here it's popping out like that. So if I run a line across here, there's the top of the great trochanter bone popping out like that, and across to here you'll find the bottom of it like that. So all those little things. I'm going to put it in.
I think Gannon is also leading you towards the idea of your next course as well, after the one that's about to come out. They said, are you going to complete the trilogy with a painting course?
The trilogy is brilliant. Yes, I have plans to do that. I'm building a sound studio at the moment. Stephen knows my woes. It took me a week to draw the course up roundabout, and it took me about 4 months to edit the sound.
That's how that goes, man.
Oh man, it was awful. It was brutal. So I need more time to actually, do the drawing. I want more time to do the drawing and just talk like we're doing here and release that. But boy, I had to get in there.
But Gannon, don't worry. I'll hold him to it later on when the next one's out. I'll make sure that he makes that painting course you want.
I'll find some render for you. Here we go. Satisfy your render needs. Here we go. So this potion is, let me see, what potion is this one? Let's see. It always comes up with the wrong title up there for some reason. I think this is potion 5. So on potion 5, one of the things I get asked for all the time is, how the hell do you draw a face looking up in profile, all this stuff? But look how beautiful. That was just a nice moment there. Look how important this is. So there's a little bit of render for you there. Okay. But it's simple render. Watch how important this is. So I have a straight line for that nose, relatively straight. Let's take it back. I haven't put it in yet. And I'm going to run a line across it. Look at that. How gorgeous is that? To be able to take that straight line and put a gesture across it like that and get this. So there's render for you there. But it's not a long render. It's not like, a 500R class. This, let me see if I can find the time on it. So let's see. Oh, no, sorry, this is the preview. I can't time it. But I'd
Yeah.
reckon this drawing would probably be about 5 minutes, 10
Yeah.
minutes, something like
I would
that.
I think that's accurate from the videos that we've edited down
Is
for
it?
you.
Yeah,
Yeah, here in the studio. Yeah, that feels very accurate to this.
yeah. Well, most of the drawings are probably, if there's a render on them, because I can kind of feel it. If it's 10 minutes, I think 10 minutes is considered a study,
Mhm,
and anything beyond that is just more study. So if I feel that 10 minutes, I go, do I really need to do any more to tell this story? Do I really need to? Like, for
mhm,
instance, I'm overtelling the story at this point. See there, I wiped that back. So as I'm drawing this figure here, this face, everything was very symmetrical. See that? But see the second I wiped back here and made the not only the eyes asymmetrical, but the tone, the value asymmetrical, meaning there was going to be lighter family of value in here than on that eye. The
mm.
whole thing just became this beautiful moment. Watch there.
Oh, I do like that.
See,
With
isn't that
the
nice?
so there's that push, so
Oh,
you either look at one of these, probably at
yeah,
the right eye that's closer to your hand
yeah,
here, but if you
yeah.
look at the other one, like, the eye on the right pops so much because of
Oh,
the lower contrast of the left one.
yeah. It seems narcissistic for me to be going, oh, but
No, no,
no,
like you
you know
said,
what I mean?
you have to love the lines.
We love it. Whereas this is very much, here's how you do it. You know, I've left all the hard nuts and bolts in there to see. Like
Mhm,
you put light up against the dark. That's what happens in nature. Like when you look at a cushion and there's a button in it, the button's pushed into the cushion. It has the occlusion shadow
mhm.
where it presses in. So there's the occlusion shadow there at that point. And where the cushion comes back out again, that's where you get the highlight. It butts right against the button. So
I
I'm
did want we have a comment here in the chat. It's from this person, see the name. But yeah, they said best artist of all time. I think they're talking about me probably, Patrick. Yeah. No, that's from Christian, and he's definitely talking about you, Christian Nee.
get out. Really?
Yeah,
Who
that's
said that?
Christian. This is Christian Nee saying that you're the best artist of all
Is it
time.
our Christian?
Yeah,
Our favorite Christian? Oh, thanks,
indeed.
Christian.
The
Oh,
sketchy Van Man himself.
I hope I'm not welling up on screen here. That's a bad
I'm
look.
gonna make you full screen. We'll see the
That's
tears.
a it's a bad look. Well, if Christian's still around, Christian, maybe we'll have a little chat after this because I keep trying to get a good time to talk with Christian.
Mm,
We haven't caught up since he visited me here in Australia. So after this, Christian, I'll have a cup of coffee and try you and see. But yeah, so here's what the idea is. The course is all about, we're going off the standard model. Frank Frazetta, for instance, he didn't paint eight head high women. He just didn't do it. And so they looked like they could get off the canvas and walk around. They looked fantastic. So I'm going to draw Amazons and I'm going to draw princesses and I'm going to draw long, short, wide, everything in this course to show you what the differences are and what that difference makes as a statement.
mm.
Look at this little character here. You can't have just one character. There has to be hundreds of characters in your world. And here I am doing a little bit of master study. There was a great artist called Herbert Draper, and I just loved him. I loved him. And he did my favorite painting from the fantasy era, second favorite painting. And you might be able to see it in the background here. Let me see where we are on the screen. So in my Hobbit cave, just up here, in that corner, oh, the mirror, that corner,
Let me make this a big one here.
there,
There you go.
there, the Fall of Icarus. Have a look at that. It's from the Tate Gallery, the Fall of Icarus. And he was basically a one painting guy. But what a painting it was.
Mm.
And when he died, nobody really noticed. But that painting, it's just fabulous.
That's how that goes. There's so many times where a person just makes one piece that's just that standout piece, and
Oh,
it never seems like it's the one where the person really was planning on it being the thing that they're
yeah.
remembered for.
Oh, yeah. He did a couple of paintings that were nice, but that one, the Fall of Icarus.
Mhm.
And as you get better, you start to see the faults in it. So for me, he was like the best artist. And then I look at it now, and the carpal ramp of his wrist of Icarus is actually a bit dodgy. Whereas the likes of Lord
Drag him.
Lightning,
Get him.
yeah, and yet I was his wingman, and now he's spinning around his grave. But you do see that after a while, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing to be able to see later that you can actually critique your heroes and say, "Wow, look at that! They were learning too."
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad to recognize the flaw that something else had. You
Yeah,
have them. You see them for yourself. It's fine.
yeah. Everybody sees them, and
You were
well, you should.
talking
If you can't see
Absolutely.
them, that's the problem. That's the Dunning-Kruger situation. But
There
here
there was
I'm.
or
You go ahead.
I did have
Oh,
so you were mentioning proportions, how you were gonna work through all different styles of proportions,
yes.
different types of figures.
Yeah.
Uh, Amaterasu, I'm assuming not at the actual Amaterasu, just the person who was able to get that YouTube name, says, "In regards to proportions, is there a simple way to remember the shifting landmarks of the proportions of 4 to 5 head tall figures versus a 7 to 8 head figure?"
See, that's the worry right there, that we get fixated on heads. I like hands better. I like hands because they're
Mm.
everywhere. You can see them, like a hand can be here, a hand can be down there. Whereas a head's always on your neck. It's not much you imagine if your head was floating around your body, it would be a great proportional device. But it's always on your neck. So for me, hands are the most important thing. But yeah, I do break that down into something much simpler. I don't think of heads anymore. They're wonderful to learn, and then you use them when you need them for
Mhm.
precision. But I would never measure 8 heads down like this because it's a nightmare. What you'll probably end up with is a figure that's way too long, and
Mm.
you get one of those heads a little odd, and something's weird, and then you're back to that moment. Oh, it's wrong. When really torsos are different lengths. Arms and legs definitely are. Torsos are about as close as you can get to something being possibly similar to everyone else, except for the female torso is a bit longer.
Mm.
Uh, so no, I break it down into halves, and then I break it down into quarters, and then you can start breaking it down into heads. So it's the big to small thing,
Mhm.
basically. So let me find the Amazon. So
I
I'm
think
drawing an Amazon in
this
here.
will that will also serve as an answer to Gannon's earlier question about what makes
Oh,
this
good.
different from something else.
You're great,
There you
Stephen,
go.
for keeping me on track. My mind, it's all over the place.
That's okay. That's what I'm here for. I don't know when courses are coming out, but I can
No,
remember when questions were asked.
yeah. Well, with this course, what I wanted to do was like one of the best compliments I ever got was from a student, and he read my book. And when I started writing the book, I wrote in an academic style because that's how I read books. And then I realized, you know what, I wouldn't read this. And so
Mm,
I
I
started to
see.
write it as if I was teaching the class. And it was a huge shift. It was a seismic shift. And the books just flew off the shelves.
And
They were
is
always sold out.
this is for your previous course or this new one? Because I know that you do teach like the way that your book works even
Yeah.
is I think very different than most art books.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Well, that's the whole idea. And so I decided to take that idea in here as well. So instead of a voiceover, I meet you in the room like Walt Disney. I meet you in the room beforehand and I say, here's what's happening with potion one.
Mhm.
And then we get into it. And in potion one, this is where you'll get the Amazon. So you can think of the 8 heads high here, right? So that's what I'm thinking of. But I'm varying them a little bit each time. I'm going to say, well, let's say that's a head, and I'll make that one a little longer because I want longer legs. And this one's a little longer because I want, to be longer at that point. So for me, a good one, Steve Houston taught me this. If you elongate each head a little bit more as you go down, you're going to get an Amazon. You're going to get a more majestic figure. Do it the other way, you got Danny DeVito. So a little bit bigger each time all the way down. And that's how I'm devising this Amazon. But for me, look at the little guy in there. There's his arms. Hand length, hand length, hand length. Hand lengths are everywhere. They're just great. I love them. So I use them. And if you get this torso right, and then halves. So basically, the bottom of this V is the great trochanter. And there you go. You've got 4 heads down. So I
Mhm.
just go half and then half. And then I'll half it again. I'll go quarter, bottom of the knees, quarter, the nipples. I don't think of heads. Heads are just too much trouble.
I think it's
And
fair.
then, yeah, and then later I put the heads in where I need them because I know that that head is going to land on that nipple roundabout, and the next head's going to land on that navel roundabout, and the next head's going to land on that crutch roundabout.
Roundabout.
So it's basically it's just something you have, you can just do that. But to draw the heads, oh man, it's a nightmare.
Yeah, I think there's that rigidity that people often get stuck in when they're doing something
Oh,
anatomical or something that's supposed to be figure drawing. They
yeah,
really wanna adhere to this thing that a teacher, I think, rightfully tries to drive home as a concept that you should keep in mind, but it's
Yeah,
not necessarily the thing you have to do the entire time.
it's
Like
the subconscious. Yeah,
everybody who drives, who rides a bike, any of these things, you don't necessarily do it in the exact same way that you were taught to do this thing. And as long
that's
as you're
right.
not driving on the like polar opposite side of the road, driving people off the road, it's okay if you do it a little bit different.
Steve and I did that in America. Because you guys drive on the wrong side of the road.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
I was driving. There was this guy coming at me, and you could see his eyes getting bigger. And the two
He's
of us
terrified.
turned into Applebee's. I love Applebee's. It saved my life. The two of us turned in there, and I got out of the car. I said, "Look, I'm so sorry." And he heard the Irish accent. He says, "Oh, don't worry
Like,
about it
it's
yet.
fine. It's
Don't
fine.
worry about driving on the wrong side of the road toward oncoming traffic."
I love that the thing that you were doing when you ended up driving on the wrong side of the road was turning into an Applebee's. There's
Yeah,
nothing more American than that. Almost
it
getting in
was
a car accident and then pulling into that Applebee's.
it was wonderful, and I had to go in and have something to eat because I was all shaking. I go, "What the hell?"
I need a lime marita real bad. Give me
Yeah,
boneless chicken wings.
I had the all day breakfast. That's what I love about America. You can have it. There's no question about it. If I was in Ireland, I says I want an all day breakfast. You go, well, it's not breakfast time.
Mm,
What kind of talk's that? And so yeah, America.
we'll
I
give it to you.
actually stayed up to 3 o'clock in the morning in Florida once to test the idea that America doesn't sleep. And I went down. Sure enough, there was something open, and I had a breakfast. I couldn't
Yeah,
believe it.
usually there'll be something depending on the city there.
Yeah, that was
Uh,
amazing.
so I'm gonna bring this back. I think so, Patrick. Right now we're at about an hour and a half.
Oh,
Is
are
there
we?
anything in particular that you want to try to hit
Yeah.
and like mention or anything here?
Well, let me have a look and see what we haven't talked about. So basically, yes, the course is for absolute beginners to wizard. That's what I want to do. And I remember I said I told a lie. I do copy a Frazetta in here just to find out how he worked. But here's the main takeaway from this Frazetta. Notice as, like for instance, just at that point there, notice that arm is not the same as that arm. Do you see that? It has my gesture in it, right? Now, Frank was incredibly gestural, but everything's a little different. See up here? So my takeaway for anyone that's doing a master study, sure, just study it as it is. And then see if you can go in and do it more fluidly. So you can see I'm overlapping that deltoid there, whereas Frank has just ended it right there. But I've put a curve on here where he's put a straight. I wanted to understand the straights and curves. But at the end of the day, I don't want to be a Frazetta clone. I love his work, but I don't want to be that.
Yeah.
And
You're
so
Patrick freaking Jones.
that's who I am. Yeah. So I'm a different person. But look at all that Frank has given us here. Practically nothing to work with. I mean, I love it. So I've gone in there with all the skills that I'll teach in this course to show you where I believe Frank knew enough to take everything out again. So the process of taking things out, it's not as easy as it seems, because if you know everything that goes in, then you can take everything out with authority. So yeah, it takes you through all of the ideas of foreshortening. I mean, let's see, is this the promo? Yeah, this is just the promo. But basically these drawings are done very quickly, but with thought going fast. So the main thing is you draw at the speed of thought. I mean, look at that beautiful little line going in there. Do you see that? So that's wizard level. Yeah, that's wizard level there. So you'll start your apprenticeship, and you can start with these little tubes. Like there you go. That's just a snail's tube there with a mushroom end to it. And then we'll grow that. Like I said, there's 18 hours of it. It's just over and over reiterations, finding these little moments every time. And if you were to, by osmosis, draw along with me, pause the video, which you can't do in class. You can't pause Patrick in class. Well, you can. Students do it all the time. They stop me all the time.
You see someone just kind of start buffering.
Yeah. But you can, I mean, that's the great thing about a recorded class is you can pause it and stop. So my advice is, even if you're doing my fantasy female figures course, which is much, let's call that wizard to sorcerer, you can actually go back to the first 5 minutes over and over and just get that, and then go to the next 10 minutes and keep getting that until you've created your own sort of apprentice to wizard. But here this is specifically, what would I need if I was 20 again? And it's all this. That's what it's all about.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think like so I've only gotten to be around for the emails that you guys have really exchanged about this course.
Yeah.
I see a little bit here and there, but I'm really intrigued for this one. I think it's something I've it's so hard to try to summarize without actually giving anything away about what I know of particular demos or anything like that. But I think that the way that you approach something is something that it ends up being really intuitive based on the strength of that knowledge that you've built up over time. And like
Yeah.
you said, that people have seen you work at the wizard level, the master level, the end goal of the things
Yeah.
that you're teaching. So to try to be able to take it back and try to make that knowledge intuitive for other people, I think is very nice now.
Oh, thanks, Stephen. I just wanted to as I saw it there, remember we couldn't find the automatic drawing?
Uh-huh.
There's a little bit of it just there, just slightly. We'll get into that. So if you're a little bit frozen and you don't want to worry about proportions, a little bit of automatic drawing, which means you just draw without worrying about anything. There, I'm doing it there. And you just squiggle down the page until the drawing there. See, like that arm? It's just a big wobble. But like I say, this is just a quick preview. I'll go into all of that stuff. But yeah, automatic drawing is really important, I think, to free yourself up from the very rigor of it. I'll just put on for the end of it, Stephen, I'll put on the last where I think we get into wizard. So let me just get that, and we'll end the show with that if you like.
That sounds great.
Yep. So let's find it.
There's a comment here from Constantinus.
Yeah.
They said, I just want to say I love the dagger blade thing behind Patrick on the mantle.
Oh, do you see that?
Yeah.
Nobody tell the police. I'm not supposed to have that. that was a student of mine, and they were going overseas, and they said, "Would you buy this from me?" I says, "That's illegal. It's an actual weapon." And they left it with me. I says, "Look, I'll just keep it for you. I give them the money to go away. If they want it back when they come back, then that's fine too."
That's the classic excuse. I'm just holding that for a friend.
I just hold them for a friend. Yeah. Oh, I'm very faithful and everything, but if it comes to the sale time, I'm lumping them in. I says, "It's not mine, it's theirs." Yeah. So there's where we end with. We end with basically one of the hardest things, which is to get a standing figure to look like it's about to move. This little portion's called stillness and motion, and by this point, there's a whole hour on drawing forearms, for instance. There's the trickiest thing. I call that the horror. It's not a horror for me. It used to be. So that's the horror episode, and it's wonderful. So for me, drawing arms is one of the most beautiful things now. It used to be so hard, but it's so simple now.
Is there something that you look at most with the forearm now that you think that you weren't observing in the past?
Yeah, the brachioradialis.
Okay.
Being higher than the humerus ball down here. I used to think they all fitted onto this little ball here. And also the brachialis, which is here. I haven't put it in yet. But I saw an exhibition here in Queensland, and every painting that this one artist did, he had left the brachialis out. And I thought, how can you not see that shadow right here? How can you not see it? And it was in every single painting, and everything else was perfect. He just missed brachialis day at the live show. And a friend of mine says, "There's something weird with that arm." And I says, "Yeah, it's the brachialis is missing." And then he saw it. I described to him what it was, and he saw it in every painting. And automatically, all of those paintings became weaker in his eyes.
I see.
So this is the course to make sure that you're not that guy, So
like brachialis day.
You don't want to miss brachialis day. Everything's here, You can see the latissimus made very simple here. You can see the serratus running through that nipple up to the collarbone. There's a million ways to do this. And I splay everything. I make sure that my ribs are more gestural than any human rib can be. Sometimes you see them that way. Why not have it all the time? So that's, if there's something you like about my drawings, maybe the fluidity of them, this is the secret sauce. So all of these potions are what get you there. And I finished near enough with this one and a couple more at the end. So that's wizard level. Don't be frightened by it. That's 18 hours in, which could be for you because you own these forever. It could be 18 weeks. It could be 18 months. It's whatever you want it to be.
It could be 18 years. It's not advisable, but go for it.
It could be 18 years. It doesn't matter. As long as you're having fun with it and it's, it's a wonder, I couldn't even believe I could draw this from imagination. I couldn't
Mm,
believe that if I was 20. Now, if I went back to when I was 20, tracing photos and saying, you don't need to do that. Here's this. I wouldn't believe it. I said, this is
mm,
possible. This is actually possible. It is. It's actually possible. There's the only time you'll see me erasing the whole thing right there, taking that line out. I went too dark too soon. My long, light, and loose, I broke the rule and I went too short, too dark, and too tight on that line and erased it. Oh, Patrick, the shame. The shame is there on the screen. Let's see the shame again. Oh, it's in there somewhere. There's no need to shame me twice.
I think
But
that that's this, like you said, it's okay to acknowledge your flaws, the flaws in other people's drawings. It doesn't
yeah,
make you a bad person. It just makes
that's
you
right.
human.
It doesn't make you a bad person. Okay, well, there it is, guys. That's it. Yep, I'd love you to join me on that. It's
Mhm.
like I say, you have them forever, and it's a great. I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of it,
I
and I've
think
been
as you
pushed.
should.
Yeah, I've been pushed. Students pushed me over the cliff. He says, "Go and make that course," and I went, well, "Have I to do this?" And it was like I kind of owe it, you know. I can't just leap to sorcerer. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll do another once I get that sound studio built, where I'll get more drawing done. Then
Just a
I'll
nice
go
quiet space.
from wizard to sorcerer. I'm
Yeah.
already looking at the soundproofing for the walls.
Okay.
Bigger
I'm
wall.
excited for you. There was one last question here that we had.
Okay,
It came up earlier and it came up again, so I think it's justified. They earned their question.
go on.
What pencil are you using in all of those demos, Patrick?
Well, I will show you. Now, that is a good question because it's not the pencil I use for a finished drawing. So I'm using a Jeff Watts pencil,
There you
and
go.
it is that
Conte à Paris.
Paris, Macron, Comté,
They put
Francais.
they put his name in all of the pencils.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a set of brushes coming out. It's such a great life being an artist. I have a
Do
set
you
of brushes.
really?
Yeah, Patrick Jones collection, and
Really
also
now?
yeah, and a set of paints by Liquitex. I hope I'm not giving the game away too much.
I
shouldn't
didn't
have
know
said
this,
anything.
Patrick.
I didn't know it till yesterday. So my
Okay.
friends at Mindwork Studios in Italy are creating for their miniature. There's a lot of there's miniatures made from my paintings, and
Uh-huh.
people paint those, and they're bringing out a set of paints and brushes. Specifically,
Congratulations.
I can't believe it. Thank you.
When do you know? And obviously, I imagine that the timeline for these kind of things is probably it slips, it changes. It's
It
not.
does,
It's
yeah.
like kind of loosey goosey. But do you know any kind of like event some people can see you at, maybe where you would imagine this would be at?
Oh, events. I don't know. Nothing at the moment. Sort of
Okay,
COVID threw the whole world off.
that's fair.
Every 2 years, I would go to the US and do a
Mhm.
show every 2 years, and then I ended up going to Europe. At the moment, there's nothing on my schedule at all. With
Okay.
there's a murmur of Las Vegas in November, just a murmur,
it,
but
ju- it
that's
just
all there is.
it just smells a little bit like poker chips and vomit.
Yeah, it's a little bit like that. Yeah, sticky carpets.
Yeah.
Yeah, seems a bit like
Okay.
that. Here's the
All right.
other pencil. There's the finishing
Let me
pencil
give
that
you
I
this
use.
one.
So this one is what I use to finish a drawing. That's the General's. What's it say on there?
Is it
General's.
does he Pete?
Let's see.
I can't read that one very well.
Yeah, it's just his pencil. So it's
Okay.
General's pencil, and it is a medium. The softs break too much. But the
Mhm.
great thing about that pencil over this pencil is this is a brilliant sketching pencil.
Yeah.
So
This is also the one that Stan uses because
oh
of
yeah,
his connection to Jeff Watts.
its connection to Jeff, yeah.
Yeah.
And so that is a brilliant pencil. It has hardly any grit in it. It never breaks. Well,
Mhm.
it will break, but very rarely breaks. And I got on the recommendation, I got a long nose sharpener, an electric one.
Oh.
It's supposed to sharpen charcoal. My ass. Can you say that?
Yeah, absolutely. This is fine. Yeah. No, guys, if anything out there says they're gonna make it really, really
Yeah.
easy, like a one-stop thing for you to
Yeah.
sharpen your charcoal, it's not true.
My ass. And in Ireland, we say we add parsley to that so it's not so vulgar. My arse and parsley, my mother would say. So you garnish it with parsley. It
Uh,
doesn't, it breaks them.
everyone in here, they already realized, I think, that the subtitler has a hard time with your accent at times. So there's
Oh, do they?
no way that we'll get content flagged. It's not gonna know you said the word.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, I talk. Here we were talking about that, weren't we, Stephen? When I'm doing my radio voice, like when I do for these movies, it's a whole different Patrick. It's all it's Luther Vandross, and here we have the great trochanter. It's all slowed right down.
Could
It's
you
a whole different
give him
world.
give him one more here? Give him the Luther Vandross.
Yeah. Hey, baby, you're gonna love this pencil. It's so smooth. Yeah. So yeah, it does make these. It did sharpen a couple of them, but only after
Mhm.
breaking the pencil down to that size. So I bought a $5 pencil and ended up with a $2 pencil. So the thing is, with this course, I'll show you how to sharpen a pencil.
Okay, it's perfect.
Yeah.
When
Follow.
that happens, I will be happily editing that video from that out into being an ad for this because everybody loves a
Excellent.
pencil sharpening video. It's
Yeah. Oh,
perfect.
do they?
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Oh, good. And all the tools.
I
All
think
right.
that the
Thanks.
the chat here, they
Oh,
just caught up to the part where you were doing your Patrick Vandross. That was great. Patrick, thank you for joining us. I know that I think that you would have enjoyed getting to draw traditionally
I
in
would
there.
have.
It
Yeah.
would be great. I think that there's nothing stopping us from doing this again if we
Yeah.
sort out any sort of technical things. We'll definitely have to get together again because there'll be a release of a brand new Patrick Jones course that people will have to see
Yeah.
things from.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, if people want to find you, I have a link up here on screen for where they can find you on Proko. This is your website, pjartworks.com, if they want to keep up with you. And then also on Instagram and the other platforms, Patrick J. Jones Illustrator. Go follow him over there. He posts good stuff. You should all see it. Let him motivate you. Let him show you good podcast clips. You too can become an art agent.
Well, thanks, Steve. That was a really great point. That was really great. There was one more thing, though, I hadn't mentioned that I am doing now for my students, but anyone can join in. On the second week of every month, I'm doing a podcast called The Art Agents. And we just talk about art with usually quite famous celebs in the art world.
Mhm.
I'd love to have Stan on. Look at me putting
I'll
it out
I'll
there.
see what I can do for it. I'll try to convince him.
Yeah, and we just talk about basically, not so much about the art, but how do we, as artists, because it's just a big wilderness out there once you walk out of like your college or something. How
Mhm.
the hell do you start making a living at this kind of thing? And so it's about that, and we bring in the guests and what was their steps, how did we do it, and how do you keep yourself sane? So it's all
Mhm.
about that kind of stuff. Once you've got all your skills, there's more to it. How is Patrick not plastering walls, which was my fate if I didn't change and turn a clock like that? I was going to be looking at a gray wall
You'd
for
be a
8
wall
hours.
plaster man.
Yeah, for 8 hours a day. Imagine me looking at a gray landscape like that with all this creativity. It would have drove me
Yeah.
crazy. So the passport to freedom is learning how to draw. And then the next part is, well, what do we do with it? So I
Mhm.
do that. I do the art agents on every second week. And you'll find me on there with Surf Rosetta and Steve Houston and stuff. I've already done a few things. Michael Hampton, who's with the Proko. So is Steve,
Mhm.
isn't he? So
Yeah,
I've
absolutely.
quite a lot of it's no coincidence it's those people, because Proko is hosting the best there is. And they're hanging around. We're all hanging around together.
Mhm. It's true. I think even recently, I think you had friend of the show, Ben Eblin, on there as well, correct?
Oh yeah, Ben was on. Ben
Yeah.
just lives down the coast. I know you say just down. It was like me coming from Los Angeles to San Diego, like 10, 16 hours down the coast.
Yeah.
But we're on
But
the
it's
same
just
land.
right over there.
Yeah, it's the same landmass.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Ben was great. Yeah, check Ben out. He did an art agents with us.
Yeah. If you guys haven't, like I said, you can find out more about that here on this little thing on screen right now. I highly recommend it. It's a good time. Get yourself some art education. Have fun with it. And I don't know. Just do something fun with your social media. You don't have to see just a bunch of nonsense on there. You can hang out with Patrick Jones.
There you go.
All right.
Steven, you're
I'm-
the top man.
And you're a fantastic, wonderful human. I'm going to sign us off of here.
Okay.
You want to give people a nice a princess wave with me?
Is that what we do?
Yeah, there we go.
There we go. I can get one of those plastic hands that just does that, and I can just leave it there. And there's look at the marks of a warrior. Look at that. See that?
Beautiful.
When my students walk out of the light draw class, they put stripes on their cheeks like that.
Go out.
Yeah,
You're leaving the battlefield with the markings now.
We've been life drawing, yeah.
All right. You guys have a good one. We'll see you again soon. Be safe.
Thanks, Stephen. Adieu.